Hello there guys, time for another review. This time we'll be looking at the Audeze LCD2 Rev.2. This is the original version without the new metal plugs here. I don't really like the new version, so I did what I could to find an old one and succeeded in it. Let's first go over the materials. This is like the LCD3, just a tad bit different. Actually it's the other way around since this one came first, but as you see it comes with leather pads, black ones. They're a bit thinner than the LCD3s, which are quite enormous. These are still fairly big and quite thick, as you can see in the back there. Quite thin in the front, but they are a lot firmer than the ones on the LCD3 are. And I actually like the seal and the general fit of these a lot better than the LCD3. It feels much more secure in your head. The LCD3 kind of wobbled about. The wood on the originals were on all of them rosewood. In the new version you'll be able to get bamboo as well, sorts of made of little squares of bamboo all the way around, and then with an edge and then polished. I still like the rosewood better, but because of the short stock of it they had to make the other version, and also the rosewood in the new ones look very varied. Some of it doesn't look that good, not as good as the old ones do. They use mini XLR plugs, 4 pins. They are a bit big for headphone connectors to my taste, but they do the job, and the headphones themselves are very big, as most of you know. So to scale it fits fine, but generally it's just all in all very big. The gimbals and all of that is made of, I take a guess and say this is spring steel or something like that. It's very strong. This is steel as well. These, however, which I found quite disappointing, just like on the LCD3, are made of plastic, but it's some very strong plastic, so I don't think that's going to be a problem. But still, I would have liked to see them made out of, you know, cast aluminum or something. But they do the job, and they don't seem to be breaking for people, so not a big problem there. The headband is again steel on the inside, then covered in black leather, with a bit of padding underneath. None of that open-celled foam that the revision 1 of the LCD2 had. And then the grills on the side are steel as well. Also steel, by the way, both here and here is black, painted black, and then it just says Audeze LCD2 planar magnetic technology. I find it a bit odd that even on the revision 2 it doesn't actually say revision 2, and that's, well, let's just say when you have to resell it, the only thing people have to go by is your word, and then the fact that the headband is a new version. Of course, with the newer versions the plug is a bit different. What you'll be able to see in pictures is probably that it has sort of an angled piece of metal down here where the plug goes out from. The result of that is actually when you wear them, the cable points quite directly out from your face, and personally I find that very weird looking and in no way practical. But apparently some people have problems with the cables on this version touching the shoulders when they turn their heads or lay down, or if you have a bit of a short neck or a thick neck or whatever, it might be a problem. I have never found it to be a problem. I actually prefer this greatly because it doesn't look that silly when you wear them, apart from the fact that they're humongous. But yeah, generally very, very good build quality, some of the best on the market in my experience. Quite unique looking, sort of a steampunk look, like many have said before. One of the things that made me actually want to try this after I had my experience with the LCD3, which wasn't, well, it wasn't too great. It was a good headphone, but I mean, for the price it was quite ridiculous. And Well, I'm happy I did, because I discovered something about the LCD2 which makes me wonder why the LCD3 is actually the most expensive one. Well, it's more detailed, that's a given, but the sound signature of it just seems odd that that would be the expensive one and this one not, because this one is $995 in US dollars, I believe, and the LCD3 is, well, you add 1,000 to that. And the sound signature of this one is much more balanced and flat. If you looked at a graph of the LCD3, you'd see that the bass is, well, fairly flat. It's a tad bit elevated, and then you have the missing high-end, mid-range, and some of the treble, and then you'll see in the high treble it starts to spike like hell, and it just looks ridiculous. Not something that you pay that much for. I know most headphones tend to spike in that part of the frequency range because of the way that the charts are made, that they are exponential, but this is just, we're talking like the Alps on the charts. It's nothing like most headphones. The LCD2 Revision 2, however, is much more flat. Then you have a bit of a drop-off in the higher mid-range, as all the LCDs have, continuing up in the highs, and then it just jumps back up again and continues. It's fairly flat onwards from there, jumps a bit but not too much. Generally much more balanced presentation, and although because of the lowered and rolled off, well, not really rolled off because it doesn't end there, but the lowered high mid-range and highs in general, they are quite dark sounding, and if you go directly from something like the HD800, another German headphone from Biodynamic or anything like that, generally a bright headphone, directly to this one, if that was a very detailed one like the HD800, well, this is going to sound very, very dark, and to some even muffled. I've had that experience with it before. However, if you just pick this up, listen to it, listen to it prior, it doesn't really, you don't get that sense of just darkness and sort of a muffled sound, because it doesn't really have that. It's just because of the big contrast if you do that. And I actually, when I tried to compare it to other headphones, I actually stopped doing it, because this headphone is very good, but it doesn't work very well when you try to compare it to one of the detail monsters that the Germans tend to love to make, and Audeze definitely doesn't. And that's actually their strong side, and the reason why I could even justify trying it, because the thing that Audeze does that not many other headphones do is that they are very forgiving, and because of the lower treble and so on, you can crank it very loud and it won't actually be annoying to listen to, and it won't, well, as far as I know at least, it won't be as hard on your ears, because the part of your hearing that goes out when you get older is the high frequencies, and because of the what is it called? The hairs in your ear that actually catch the sound are much more fragile for the high frequencies, and thus by lowering it you're able to listen to higher volumes, and a lot of music sounds better at higher volumes. I mean, most people know it. When you listen to music you tend to crank it a bit louder and a bit louder and a bit louder, and by the end of it you're listening to it way too loud, and you can get away with it on this to a reasonable extent, of course, but you can get away with it without the sound actually being annoying, because it never gets screechy or anything. And well, the sound in general is very, very smooth, and that's part of the reason why it's so forgiving. You can listen to fairly poor quality recordings without it actually being a problem. And well, the signature in general, like I said, is dark, but not too dark. It is very dark, but not too dark. They hit quite the good balance there, because you still have the highs, they're just a bit withdrawn. The mid-range is very, very good. At least the part that counts when you're talking about vocals and so on. Vocals are very good in the Audeze's. In general, I actually think, even on the LCD3, they were fairly good. But very good. And then the low end is what they're actually famous for, because as most people will have seen our frequency chart, the LCD2s just extend completely flat all the way down to 0. Something that I don't think any other headphone on the market at the moment is able to do. The hi-fi mans don't even do it. They're close, but they don't actually do it. They roll off right before at about 20 Hz. This one goes completely all the way down to 0. And it has pretty good impact. Not amazing, but good impact. Most people will say it's one of the best at impact, and don't get me wrong, it is, but it sometimes gets a bit covered up by the dark sound signature, but it is a very good headphone for impact and generally bass, because it's very, very well controlled, as most orthodynamic headphones are when they are amped well properly. Something that's able to control the large diaphragms, because as you can see, it's like the entirety of my hand is the size of the diaphragm. It's huge, which is probably also part of the reason why it's able to do this. So the bass is really some of the best you can get, probably the best in headphones. So that's the sound signature basically. Withdrawn highs, still good quality, mids very smooth, quite good in the area around vocals. That's where they are not withdrawn really. Very smooth, and then the bass is just amazing. Some of the best you can get. I think the TH900s are a bit better, but I haven't actually heard them. I'm going to get them quite soon, hopefully, if they get to Denmark at some point. But yeah, the soundstage on these is a bit subpar though. I mean, if you compare it to an HD800, it's just not anywhere near it. It's decent, it gets the job done, but you're not going to get that huge soundstage where you're able to say that's where that instrument is and that's where that instrument is. It just doesn't do that, but it's fairly good. It's not something that'll get annoying if you're not, again, comparing it directly to something that's much better. Things it comes with, apart from what I've mentioned, the headphone itself is definitely recommend worthy. If you can live with the dark sound signature, it's definitely recommend worthy. Even I've been using it as a backup to my HD800s because it's just very nice and pleasant to listen to sometimes, especially when your ears are tired and so on, because the high end just doesn't annoy you that much. But yeah, definitely a good headphone, and actually at a very competitive price when you look at it, because it's about $600 cheaper than a lot of other flagships out there. The cable on the old ones is this one, which is very thick, looks sort of like you know, a standard microphone cable, canary cable. It's actually labeled by Audeze, so it's something they made themselves, and it's very good. It's a bit thick and a bit stiff, but not too bad. I actually like it quite a bit. Definitely a lot better than new cables. The new cables are quite horrid in my opinion. They are very, very thin, flat cables. The mold lines are all over the place and the plugs aren't attached properly. Actually turning the wrong way sometimes. The original plug wasn't very good. I changed it for a mini jack for a guy who was actually buying them off me, because I'm selling these to get the TH900s. Apart from that, they come with this beauty, which of course I'll have to sell with the headphone. But just to say how great this is you have the option of choosing a wooden case or this travel case. This is freaking amazing. I'm going to get one of these when I've sold this one, because they're just that good. Basically, it's just, all it is a standard, like a Pelican suitcase of some sort for carrying professional audio gear, and then with a cutout so it fits the headphones. And then it just, you know, it can take a lot of heavy beating and just take it with you anywhere, and I love that. And it fits most headphones really, apart from some oddities like the HD800, which is just, it has a weird shape really. That's the only way to put it. But most standard headphones it will fit, and it's very, very good. Like I said, getting one of those, I believe they're $60 or something like that. It's very good price for a case that solid and of that quality. So in general, I think if you're into high-end audio, you should definitely give these a listen. I'd say even over the LCD3s, I had to pick one, I definitely take this one because the price is very good and they're very balanced, very nice to listen to, and generally does the job very well. So, in spite of what I said about the LCD3, thumbs up to Audeze for this one. This one is quite good. That's pretty much it. That's as objective as I can get about this headphone. Thank you for watching and see you next time.